Hello, the Council of Nimrod. I just want to know that indeed my hand did get really cold, and then 5 minutes of brisk walking with this hand in my pocket took it from what I thought was going to be gangrene back to the warmth of life. And so now I've learned something. Give it 5 minutes because I was crawling around the snow because I decided to go in this really difficult path because, damn it, I was going to get through there. It's like a little practice lesson. You have to be able to keep your chops honed in terms of walking in nature and saying, like, sometimes a log falls in your path, sometimes you might need to crawl under a bush to get somewhere because there's somewhere worth getting to. Not a lot, but it happens. So you need to be able to get down, you know, and essentially walk on all fours. And I think it's humbling, to be in places where, you're basically trapped, moving like an overgrown sloth. It's ungainly, it's not fluid, you're not free to just do anything. I don't necessarily enjoy slinking around, but it's necessary to keep in practice, more also in terms of your humility of like risk assessment, like crawling under logs. If I get trapped here, I'm done for, and one day you might crawl under the wrong log and that would be it. So what would you do even if you were alive still and a log fell down on you? Scream for help? So I don't like the idea of having to scream for help. I just, ugh. Like, that's why I would say I love being in nature, but I hate being in nature, you know? And this song that I'm going to sing will make a lot more sense if I tell you that I carry a lot of deer medicine. And also make it in the song, that's because I need to, all right? It means something to me. It's a sensitive, gentle sounding song like the deer, but it also says a lot. Never acknowledge that, you need it for a reason, and deer medicine is very soft, but, it has to be that way. It has to be strong, but only in a way that's purely in benefit to the deer, right? Deers can attack if provoked, and you don't want those hooves going into your face. I'm like a deer. I want to apologize to Nelly for taking the music basically for this song from her. I'm like a deer, wanna run away. I just wanna pass evil by. I just wanna be really shy. I'm like a deer, wanna run away. I just wanna pass evil by. I just wanna be really shy. I'm like a deer, I wanna run away. I just wanna pass evil by. I just wanna be really shy. It'd be great just to be really shy and to pass evil by. Be like a deer. I can crap wherever I want, even while I'm singing this song. I'm like a deer, wanna run away. I can crap anywhere I want. I could crap right in this song. I'm like a deer, wanna run away. I can crap anywhere I want. I can crap in this song, but I'm not going to, because I'm not really a deer. I would love to watch an entire YouTube channel of animals defecating because they can do it as they're walking, they can do it while they're talking, they can do it while they're making love, they can do it anytime they want. It's amazing. They can do it on top of people. It's not the most amazing. Like, we're okay being foul and four-legged creatures. We can crap in ways that you people have lost every basic freedom. Constable Doherty is down at the front door again. It's like, all right, everyone, get your asses over the railing. So, what do you think the Knicks are going to do this year? Fuck. Oh, well, we're only human after all. Have a good day. Constable McNally gets fecal matter. These fecal matters. These very defecal matters. Are you tired of all these defecult matters? Say it with me. Difficult matters. I'm here. I'm Constable O'Malley, and I want to address some of the matters, really. Difficult matters. Well, very fickle. Fickle this way, that way. Fickle everywhere. Get them a little tickle and they'll be fickle whatever you want. Fick this and fuck that. It's like your children learning the F word. Pretty soon it's fuck this and fuck that. Fuck me, fuck them, motherfucker. Fuck this, fuck them, fuck ourselves. And it's just, fucking. I mean, that's got to be exciting. And so this is what I learned from TV in the 80s and 90s, and also into the 21st century. If you like someone, right, and they like you, you too can enter into sexual intercourse. That means you each take off your underpants and the like, so you can jam things into and have jam things into you. And also you can kind of make jam. Beast with two backs. Preserves and gelatins. It's like when humans get excited, they lose their hands. In many respects, this also means that those who enjoy sex the most enjoy the fact aspects of what other people like myself could find extraordinarily risky and dangerous, and often just a very bad idea, because the people who seem to be the most expert at talking about it, or at least getting people and themselves to believe they're very good at it, tend to have lowered their inhibitions so often and so well that they're almost constantly ready to procreate, and don't really need to, because they're doing this every way that they do this. They have like a playful territoriality to how they work through the world. Hey, Joe, I knew a woman who would come into a coffee shop and basically beam out sexually charming, aggressive energy to every man in the world. Who anything that had a penis that she might want to stick inside of her. Not because she really wanted to, because that's what she learned to do, because she was treated like a sexual object throughout her formative years. I don't know why I bother with that lighter anymore. It's just one has left or no. That one's going into the left pocket. It doesn't even work. That one's going into the left pocket. What do I got left? This one. Okay, hands in pockets. I'm not happy. It's pretty private here. If you listen to people, this is not how you get to know a woman and become her best friend, but it is, if you know a psychopath or a narcissistic female, like you'll put two and two together eventually, or you did, and you just put it to one side. You suspended disbelief. It's kind of something we do for ourselves and others in codependent relationships, let's say. It's not always your fault, but if you're in one, you can't not be in one. You can't just say, well, I'm not going to be codependent. If you're around a codependent person, they will want you to be. They'll force you to be codependent. Right? And one of the ways that narcissists do this is try to, and it just doesn't have to be conscious, just something that they do because they feel good in any relationship, and they feel good, and they feel quite sincere in the routine suggestion that they do too much for you, that you have it pretty good being around them. Okay. Now, granted, we can all say that to each other. I'm sure you would say, well, but there are reasons to talk about such things if you feel like there needs to be an adjustment and in various relationships. But ideally, you wouldn't bother being in that relationship if you needed to constantly tell someone that you do too much for them. Like, I mean, you know, are they really such a needy person, or are you just addicted to saying that? Do you not appreciate what they do for you, what they feel they have to give you? Remember now, even if someone just gives you their time, if a woman is just, if you're talking to a guy all the time and he's there to listen to you and he asks questions and you can just do that for years, don't you think he's given you something, right? Or maybe if you stopped wasting his time, you'd learn something about what his time is worth. I don't think any of these lighters technically work anymore. I came back to the original. I got to keep myself warm somehow. Why not be bothered by things? These are case studies, you know, or what turned into case studies, because these are things that become quite obvious. I mean, because they will tell you. Her breasts were quite large when she was young. She had them virtually removed as she got older. Short. She was giving herself kalimas, daily kalimas. She should have been very sexually pure and very sexually. She liked to be dominant. I mean, in any sense with a man. The first time we ever talked, she insisted in a manner of speaking that she would spend time with me if she was constantly getting what she wanted. It had to be about her. Okay. And she had a kind of interesting way of putting this very charming narcissist. And people that are narcissists are codependent, and people that are codependent are needy. I mean, from the word go, this person was saying, like the alcoholic female that came into my house at one point, that her psychiatrist, and a lot of them have psychiatrists or psychologists, encouraged her to respond to any kind of abuse she'd had in life by being more dominant. And the first day she moved into her house, she told me her psychiatrist told her to put up her charcoal paintings of her naked body or her dog all over my house, in every room. She had pasted them everywhere, like the whole house was hers. It was, and she sort of announced that, you know, this was going to be a psychiatrically sound place for her, and this is what her psychiatric diet told her. This got so bad, okay, and I allowed this to continue, that at some point I had about $1,000 painting on one wall that someone had given me. And she was walking on one side of the couch one day looking at it, and I was standing. We didn't really ever talk that much. And she said, "I think that painting belongs to me." And I almost didn't hear it. Maybe she was thinking out loud. I don't know. But I did hear it. And before the end of the year, I would go away on a difficult visit somewhere and come back. And she was sitting on the couch right beside the painting when I came in. And I looked up, and the charcoal painting of her dog Zinnia, where the painting used to be. Told me something quick about how she took it and sold it to so and so and why. And I just said, okay. And I went on with my life. Just like that. Because I didn't expect anything from her. She was psychotic. She was, you know, she was struggling. But you would fail to comprehend her if you just said she was a struggling woman. She came from a very wealthy family. Money will never be a problem in her life. That wasn't the issue. And yet she still had trouble paying the rent. Pay it on time. Again, dominance, right? There was an antique, beautiful antique table, coffee table. And coffee tables are meant to be used, and that's true. I came home one night, and she had some people over, and I think she was smoking something. I don't know what she was doing. She'd never asked me to smoke in the house. And she took a match out of the box and lit it off of the table, as if to say, look what I can do. She was probably already drunk and just lit it off of the table and smoked. And I remember just paying very close attention that if I was going to get upset, at least look to see if she'd harmed the table at all. And for the most part, I managed to convince myself that no serious harm had come to the table. So I sort of lowered my hackles very quickly. Because again, this was a mental patient. This is someone who basically come into my life, and the first time I ever heard her talk, I knew she was a mental patient. You know, a rich mental patient, essentially. No, I'm not saying all women are like this, but I've never really talked very much about this woman, or I don't even want to give her name. She's a quite legitimately mentally ill human being that comes from a family with a lot of money, and she'll never have to do anything the rest of her life. But she likes to keep busy, And I guess at some point she decided that she wanted to sell her painting to someone, and there's a story behind that. And she damaged the house, and I didn't even ask her for a damage deposit, and she left without paying all these things. And looking over people in the house who would be abusive to me, I believe she brought a woman to the house. I came home and there was a naked woman in the bathtub, and presumably needed a mate that evening, and I just made sure I went to my room and closed the door. So this was, and all in all, a pretty degenerate human being. Who had trouble having relationships with people who weren't alcoholics. She had a number of female friends who were kind of like her pet projects, who were vulnerable people. But she could pick people up and then put them down and then ignore them. Pick them up, put them down. You'll see that with narcissist, sociopathic type females. Here you are, there you are. They put you in your place very quickly. People are tools. And what you have to imagine, and women help us do this, is that imagine where she's coming from. Again, the other female who was always dominant, again, she grew up with large breasts. Her father would take her on dates, ballroom dancing. She was raped by any number of other men in or outside of her life because she was fundamentally undermined as a human being. Contracted MS in her 20s, packed up all her shit, got routine enemas, and when I met her, she was giving herself a Kalima every day. That means basically forcing, about 20 liters of water up your ass every day. Cleaning out your ass, your colon. That's what she'd done, along with eating organic food, moving to the other side of the country with the help of Dad's credit card and finding places to live. She was on disability, but it was a very different experience for her because she'd come from a certain kind of family. She had scars under her breasts, she showed me. She had very small breasts and she had them removed, but she still walked around and talked as though she was very sexually dominant. She had sort of taken on that role. She would sleep with men at random, bisexual that I knew, who thought I was sleeping with her and thought it might be fun maybe to show me that she was not a very loyal woman. She wanted to own me. So she would sleep around with different men and flirt with every man that came into any of our acquaintance. But if I merely mentioned the name of another woman with whom I might be attracted, she became violently angry. And as a friend, she would ask me to apologize for weeks. And she would say, yep, got to keep apologizing. It was just that awful a thing you did by mentioning this other person's name. A woman she made sure she came up to and sussed out to find out, oh yeah, I could see how she'd be alluring. She makes me want to fuck her, she said to me. She just puts out a kind of mysterious vibe. In this way, I met more than one female, psychotic female. They would kind of own your territory. Women you talk to, anything like that, anything about your mother, they would like, don't talk about your mother. They can't stand men like me talking about their mother. They have no relationship with their own mothers. They're completely cut off from anything, and they often don't have children, thankfully. but some of them do. Some of them do have. So, and remember, women have to be narcissistic. Have to be narcissistic. I mean, Jen was a good example. We'll call her Jen. You know, among the things she was clear about to me, like she was an alcoholic, and things that, and seeing a psychiatrist and needed to be done in ways that kind of, they were gray area enough that I was just like, okay, I can learn to. She would take my food out of the refrigerator. I don't think she ever really discovered what was my. She must have thought that peanut butter just appeared out of nowhere. She would bring, like I invited a friend of mine at the time into the house. Any man that came into the environment had to be of particular use to her in some way, sexually or otherwise. And interesting enough, that the man that I invited wasn't really a friend. He's a male nymphomaniac narcissist. And again, he needed to be the way that he was. And they're very nice. They get on quite well. He was working. They get on quite well with people, But you just can't ever really. They sort of speak a different language. They don't seem. Well, he was also an alcoholic, so he didn't seem to know he was an alcoholic. Which is to say, alcohol, probably more so than weed, I would say, give off a certain vibe about someone, the way they even talk about it. And I don't mean the disrespect, but you can kind of tell how much the person needs that drink. As much as maybe I need this marijuana, but it's different because alcohol does different things to your brain. It does a lot of things to your liver, which is a big hormone regulator. So if you wanted to become a different person or needed to, inhibitions that would allow you to reconstitute your sense of equilibrium in the world, and you decided to use alcohol to do that, that's a very difficult thing to do well without becoming an alcoholic. The first time you might smoke weed, it's like, you do it for therapeutic reasons. But that might, well, I'm going to get going soon, but alcohol has such an extraordinary thing that, in the most obvious sense that most of us understand, you're not as awake, you're not sober, right? It's not something you do so that you can do something else, unless you're a rock star or a famous author, maybe as Thompson or something. And even that's like, these are usually put-ons. Dean Martin. They're good at putting on an act, but it's not an act for you. And when you're drunk, things you say and do. The most passionate thing I would say to alcoholics is that I know that we're all different, and alcoholics, like a lot of other drug addicts and stuff, are trying to pursue a healing path. At the same time, if you drink regularly and you never think of that alcohol as though you're medicine, or you're not saying things consciously like, oh, I really need this drink at the end of the week. Oh, I have to deal with someone difficult at work. I really need this beer. And that to the extent that you need it for this or that reason, it is serving as a medicine. And that does put it into a unique category in your life, which is to be respected. I respect anything people use as medicine, right? And then like sanctify it, like, hey, these beers are really good for me. I like beer, and I need this. Overall, I think it's good. And a little faith, like the same I do with marijuana. Like, you might say, I'm just going to get black lung at the age of 60, right? You're incorporating something into your life that even other people could say, maybe that's not a good idea. And you're like, no, this is my personal journey. Alcohol is good for me. Alcohol is a very particular substance. And in society, we about doing heroin because heroin, is somewhat related on a molecular level and how the body to alcohol. Like I said, very strong substance. It behaves like other opiates, right? It has quite a deep and wide and problematic, if you may say, effect upon the human brain and human hormones. And so, if I started talking about things did badly on alcohol, you would say, you don't need to tell me. You've heard, we all hear stories about shit that happens when people are drunk. And where we grow up in homes where people are drunk, and it just, as wonderful a salve as Ernest and Julio Gallo might be to the average mom or dad, you should fucking tape record yourselves so you can see later on when you're sober what your children are dealing with. Because it isn't pretty. I'm gonna get going because I can't afford to freeze my balls off. I sort of thought I heard people, but I think that's good. These are good videos. I can get home now. Actually, I think I'm gonna put this away and get both my hands in my pockets. There we go. Good.